Here at the venue or online watching one of the mini streams with HD Pass. Let's go ahead and kick things off and introduce our players.
Up in the top left corner, the god of Warcraft 3, it is Grubby!
And in the southeast position as the Blue Terran, ladies and gentlemen, making his return to MLG. Give it up for Flash!
So at the very least, we see that there's absolutely no sorts of cheese coming, but I already do like this sort of pylon placement from Grubby. Players have started to begin to create little walls at the backside of their bases just to have a little contingency set up against Hellion drops, which as of late have started to become more popular. Players in TVP are starting to not exclusively go for the early expand off one barracks, but are starting to do some of the interesting no add-on barracks factory starport play.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually seen that a few times, and Flash actually did that a few times during the MVP. There we have the racks going down at the top of the ramp. It was pylon inside with the gateway inside, and I'm not surprised to see Grubby actually starting with this particular build at all either. Starting things off slow and steady is probably the way to do that versus a player like Flash, but you've got to remember that I kind of think a little bit about in terms of Protoss and some of the players who really are refining their build orders. Like Grubby is one of those guys that will take a build order and just practice it in 1,000 games and then work on the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see this unfold, Sean.
Grubby's already gotten a slightly earlier gas. He's gotten it at 14 instead of 15, which, though is not gigantically telling, it still is enough of a signal. And look at this meticulousness by Grubby. Every single rally of a probe sent to the building already has that little wall off at the backside. Flash, on the other hand, looks like he is going to be doing the standard, very cautious early expand build. And I say cautious because he's already walled himself in with a supply depot instead of doing something like going for the no second supply depot straight into command center.
And that CC should be coming up here pretty soon.
Wow, that's cautious.
And yeah, that is. We got in-base CC going down. And I mean, he hasn't really seen anything that would indicate that he would need to do that, Sean. So what do you think about the decision to put that inside the main base?
This is basically saying, no one can beat me in the mid and late game. I have better mechanics. I'll definitely have better mechanics than this player. Virtually never do you see this kind of play. Flash is getting the faster second barracks. Notice that those two barracks don't line up. Ordinarily, players like to wait till there's at 300 and build them both at the same time, but players like Bomber like to throw those down in unison. And it looks like Grubby just going for the single stalker early expand on 27.
Yeah, that's kind of what we expected him to start off with, and we are going to have a Zealot moving forward and immediately going after these Marines. There we get to see Flash microing those Marines around, chasing that one, and he will just take a little bit of damage there, keeping all those Marines alive. Meanwhile, behind this, there is an additional barracks as well, and both the gases have been picked up. Pretty much typical timing with what we'd expect to see with that CC, and it should be finishing up here as well. So we're going to have a Scout moving in. SCV will see the Nex is down, but more or less he's just going to get an indication that everything is what he would expect it to be.
Two more gateways going down for Grubby, and we're starting to see some of that chrono boost be spent on that cybernetics core. Scouting SCVs from Flash pretty much got the info it really needed, that there was an early expand going down, so soon enough Flash will be moving down to the low ground. But one thing that is interesting to note about putting the command center in the main, you don't need to build that early bunker, so as a result, Flash can go for the double gas and add-on and barracks before a bunker.
One Stalker trying to sneak in through the front. Flash is ready with his Marines, and he did add that Tech Lab immediately going with Stim. And we now have that CC landed. Where is Grubby going with this? We see the two additional gateways thrown down. His Warp Gate research just finishing up now. And we should see what tech he's going to be moving on to next. Assuming that we're going to see a Robo Bay thrown down here. Meanwhile, Marines are moving out with Marauder in tow as well.
Oh, it looks like Grubby's getting a little bit thrown off. He didn't see the command center when he moved up, so he is assuming immediately my opponent must be going for some sort of fast gas. So now Grubby might be thinking, I haven't seen any Hellions. Is he really going for a Banshee? More Stalkers being morphed in, and that's not what Grubby wants right now. Grubby desperately needs to be going for some longer-term play, not building any units, chrono boosting probes instead.
He definitely looks to be in a cautious sort of formation inside his main base as well. And do note that Marine placement by Flash just up the ramp at the 4th to block any probe that might try to move up and build a supporting pylon there. And we do have these one Stalker moving forward. He was seen by that tower, and no concussive shell quite yet, so that Stalker is going to go ahead and get away. But does that Stalker tell him really anything?
Well, right now, Flash is just banking on Grubby doing some sort of two-base defensive play. Nothing too extreme. Flash is getting quite an early starport. Not extremely early, but early enough that it's going to give Grubby some headaches. Right now, Grubby is going for the double forge play. You kind of have to at this point. Getting up all those early stalkers is eaten into your ability to produce all the vital tech that you really need to take that early expansion. So Grubby's just going to stick on playing defensively and use those stalkers to their maximum ability. The good old run by the bush.
Yeah. We did have the robotics facility finished. We got the first observer coming out now, and we did have double forge thrown down here. There's the Twilight Council as the first +1 upgrades get started. But this is a move out from Flash, out from his Xel'Naga tower, at least up to the front. There's going to be a single stalker here as the watchdog of what's going on. And frankly, looking at the army of Grubby, right now he's going to have some immaculate force fields just to throw this off. And look at that Flash going for those back rocks.
This is such a smart play by Flash. Even if he has no guarantee that he'll be able to move up that ramp, he wants to make sure Grubby is as on the back foot as possible, but Grubby really needs to build an extra pylon. Right now, he's almost supply blocked, but right now Grubby is caught up dealing with this huge push, and there it looks like Grubby's observer is heading into the main base. He's going to see that it was an early expand after all, and right now Grubby needs to have excellent map control and map awareness to be able to hold off this kind of push.
Now, I think there's enough units here from Flash that he could actually split this up into two different attacking forces and move up, but no, he's just going to go up the main ramp. There, the observer is caught. Good scan with the kill. And that means that the eyeballs for Grubby are going to be gone. He's kind of playing in the dark just a little bit. Now, a probe did sneak out of there, put that pylon in the back, so he's still going to be set up to take that third, but he has got to deal with this imminent danger that is just outside his base.
Right now, Grubby is desperately trying to get up Zealot leg speed, something that he can use to deal with all these Marines, but right now, all this energy is slowly going to waste. Flash microing back very well, and with the spawning factory, oh god, this is looking so grim.
Oh, I thought he definitely saw that observer. Wow, observer number 2 goes down, and Grubby just cannot get any sort of eyesight out of that main base, but Zealot speed is almost finished up. He's got a lot at the front, and there are those High Templar. We do not have Storm ready quite yet, but is Flash gonna go for it? There he stims up to the top.
There's still too many Marines at the backside. Grubby has to do this whole position micro. It's looking good, and he's gonna get a medevac. That's a nice little boon there for Grubby, who's still desperately trying to get up the Zealot leg speed. Flash has decided that now might be how he wants to approach, but with that many stalkers, he can't retreat with medevacs.
Yeah, this is really interesting too. When Flash actually got to the front base, and hold on, he's gonna stem up yet again, and no force fields thrown out. In fact, I don't think there's energy to do that. And we are going to see Flash microing these units back and forth. There, the Zealot legs kicks in, but are there enough Zealots to be able to take this out? He's going to take a few extra steps back, then start the fire once again. And when Flash first came up to Grubby's base, Grubby had half of the army supply that Flash had. It's now at 50 compared to Flash's 67, but Grubby did hold off very nicely defensive there, at least for the time being. But Flash, he's out of there. He's going to back off just a little bit.
Meanwhile, it looks like in the main base of Flash, plenty of barracks being added on, and at this point in time, Flash can comfortably add on a Ghost Academy, a 4th command center, whatever he wants. Grubby's the one on the back foot, but Grubby still going to be able to play comfortably in this position now that he's getting a Warp Prism and now that he has Storm up.
He also is going to finally throw down that 3rd Nexus. I wanted to ask you about that, of course, as that battle came up, but would you consider that delayed by quite a bit? We're looking at where it's at. Flash's 3rd base is looking immaculate right now. Gas is up as well. Do you feel like that really puts Grubby behind economically?
Well, right now, Grubby, even though he's behind economically, the Storms are so efficient against this ghost-free army. But Flash still has just so many units. I'm not sure it's going to be enough. And look at that small number of units cutting up. Will they be able to pick it off? It looks like perhaps, this is the big engagement.
Yeah, those Templars starting to get into position. They're trying to come up from the back. Flash being very much aware of what is going on. He's going to get out of there with his medevac. Still chasing are these Zealots. Going to use a few force fields to try to trap us. And there's a great storm. Number 2 falls down. Several units taken out. Flash tries to split his army, but a lot is getting decimated here.
Oh my
still
goodness.
A very good core for Grubby.
DJ Wee, I think that he has finally done enough damage to push this back. And look, a Warp Prism sneaking its way over to the third base. Grubby needs to make sure he doesn't get over-eager with his force. He needs to have those excellent storms up.
And there is the warp in. We do have 4 Zealots, but immediately it is caught by Flash. He's going to go in there, and 3 of the Zealots are picked up to fight for our one more day.
You know, I'm thrilled to say that it looks like Grubby is stabilized. We're going to be going into a long-term match. 3-3 en route for Grubby. His third base is up, not quite mining the gas yet. The worker count very healthy for both players. 68 for Flash, 65 for Grubby. And right now Flash is pinned back due to this one Warp Prism, but a single Viking has spotted it, so Grubby just has to commit.
Yeah, and there's not much he's going to be able to do. He does get all the Zealots off, but the Warp Prism goes down. Everything is cleaned up, and that third base is going to be safe. However, here, Grubby moving forward. Right now, the army supply is only 59 for Grubby, 108 for Flash. And, I mean, look at his bio army right now. His medevac count is looking very, very good. And we do have Ghosts on the way, but they're still not quite an item in this recipe here for Slash.
Yeah, right now just a single Ghost, 44 Marines. Marines are the real damage dealers against a gateway-based army. Grubby just now beginning the tech to Colossus. Really couldn't have built it any earlier, to be honest. Flash right now has 3 of those barracks with reactors and 4 with Tech Lab. Excuse me, 5 with Tech Lab, so Flash is still going to be able to churn out a healthy number of Marines, and again, Grubby needs to make sure
that Ghost moving forward, and there's the feedback on the Ghost. Storm does go down. We do get a snipe on that initial Templar, and that does leave Grubby with only 2 Templar remaining. And looks like there's just enough for a couple storms. There are 3 more Templar moving up. And huge EMPs go down. Although none hit the Templar, there's a storm drop defensively. And he's going to force that army to walk through it. But Flash smells blood, and I think he's going in for it.
Oh, looks like there's almost no energy left on those Ghosts. Are there any storms left for Grubby? It looks like he has 1 Templar that's quite high on energy behind the third base. And in the midst of all this, Grubby still had the focus to take himself a 4th.
Yeah, and that force actually is in a kind of rough position. If Flash learns about it, he could easily take it out, but it looks like he's going to scan, sees that there's virtually nothing here at the natural, moves forward, has the opportunity, good positioning on the Ghost, and there are still some storms available. One to the back. The Templar can't quite get to that position, though.
No, they get sniped. All the Templar have evaporated. It's all going to be up to the base gateway units of Grubby. But right now, Flash just has too many Marine Marauders sweeping into the natural. Grubby's trying to fall back. He's bringing a full energy Templar. There's a storm, but another excellent snipe from Flash. His map awareness is phenomenal.
I mean, these units so hurt for Flash. The medevac's without energy, but it just doesn't matter. The supply tells the tale with a 113 supply army versus 39 from Grubby. Now the third base is under fire, and Flash is looking at potential victory right here. He's still not identified that fourth base is going on, but once that third base goes down, certainly probes are going to start dying. Last minute hit by the class, and GG! Flash takes game number 1.
Gosh, I mean, you just see how a slight misread can poison all the rest of your gameplay. In that opening, Grubby saw no command center. I mean, thinking from the Terran's point of view, you want to say things like, well, if you just put the command center down, you get more resources early, no reason to hurt your economy that way. Well, we saw the reason right there. Grubby was prepared for a drop. He was prepared for a one-base play. He was getting ready to get that robo so that way he could have the observers for detection, but no one-base play was ever coming.
That observer for Grubby came out a little bit late too. He tried to get the 2 additional ones out, stopped short by scans and kills from Flash at the front of Grubby's natural. And you know, that was game number 1, but as we go into game number 2, which will be on Daybreak, Grubby has that opportunity to redeem himself.
I do think that Daybreak is the sort of map that is going to be nice for Grubby's style. He will be able to play in that defensive type of way, stay back, rely more on warp prisms. Even though Ohana looks long from top to bottom, it's still a fairly small map.
Well, guys, I think we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we return, Grubby versus Flash continues right here for the MLG Fall Championship with Game 2 on Daybreak. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And there's Grubby. He has to fight his way back after losing game 1 versus Flash. We're about ready to jump into game 2. Moving over to Daybreak as Grubby takes on the fearsome Flash. But here we go.
People like to say that on this map, Protoss has a nice edge. They can wait long enough to get up their death mixture of units, but can Grubby get that far with Flash just breathing down his neck constantly with those Marine Marauder troops? It's time to find out. In the top right corner, currently down 0-1, and he needs your cheers to stay alive. It is Grubby.
In the southwest position, this man said moments ago on stage that he could beat anyone. So far, he is undefeated in this tournament. Give it up for Flash. Undefeated after 1 game, Sean.
And you know, I'm curious if Flash will do that trick again. Anytime you do a tricky play, the most important thing to say is, have I screwed over my economy a lot as a result of this? Or have I screwed over the big play at the end of things? So often it's easy to hide that command center in your base and think, oh man, I'm going to trick him so hard. But what if he doesn't fall for it? You just lost hundreds of minerals, leaving that command center in your main and not at your natural expansion mining. And it's those sorts of questions that I think Flash is going to have to re-ask himself in this game on Daybreak. Does he really want to risk that, or really just go for the very standard, strong early expand?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, how it unfolds, there's multiple ways. Like, you as a player can give yourself advantages by doing these things that, you know, like you just mentioned. At the same token, you can also capitalize on the mistakes of your opponent. So there's certainly 2 different modes of thinking there on how your opponent might react. And I think that's very important as you think about StarCraft and how some of these guys do play, because those types of mind games are certainly evident in some of the top level competition that we do see. Grubby's going to move on up here with that probe and see, well, what he expects to see. And the block off there is not going to give him that much information, but what is going on is that barracks completes, and he needs to get over there on that supply depot there. He gets it up, and this is going to be another 1 Rax expand coming out for Flash.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice about the fact that Flash is keeping it back is there's actually 3 possibilities. One is the early expand. The second is what we saw last, or what you'd expect from most games, which is that there's a gas geyser going on behind here, but also it opens up the potential to do proxy 2 racks surprise all-ins. If you're always early expanding and just showing it to your opponent, it's very, very easy to make that sort of read. And it looks like Grubby is not going to be falling for anything this game. He's just going to go straight Nexus before that cybernetics core is even done.
Yeah, and here come that probe in from the 3rd base to kind of put himself back here, and I do love this position. Now, will Flash actually scout this with this Marine? It looks like it is going, I mean, literally, he just had a marked target and walked right over it. He does take out that probe. That means there's not an active probe on the map currently for Grubby. We did see Flash with that SCV go all the way down to that southeast region, now making his way up to that natural. He should be able to get a good bead on that Nexus and see that the expansion's up, but he actually just holds back a little bit, maybe waiting to actually move in. We should note, I'm sure it was shown, but that CC for Flash is indeed inside the main base.
This is great timing from Flash because he can actually get amazing information. Right now, the fact that he sees the Nexus very, very far down the line, you could say, oh, my opponent probably did that before he built a unit. If it was maybe halfway or a quarter done, say he built a few units, and if it was just getting started, you'd say, huh, there might be some sort of tech behind this. So waiting until around the 5-minute mark, very smart move from Flash.
Now look at Flash's Marine spread here, because this is obviously much different than the last map we saw on Hunter, where there was typically 1 ramp that you were going to go up to try to get your information. In this particular case, you can come in through the 3rd or up through that natural, but we see Flash having a Marine at each of those spots, as well as 3 in the back to make sure that he can try to deny any information. But already we're seeing Grubby throw down that pylon here, 3 additional gateways for him up inside the main. Actually, no, 2 additional gateways, my bad. And Warp Gate Research finishes up, and he should have his first warp in here momentarily.
If he warps in 3 Stalkers at this expansion, I would be very excited. Ooh, it looks like, oh, Grubby is going to be going straight off for an aggressive play. This is a move similar to what Naniwa did in the GSL. If you open up with early 3-gate pressure, if your opponent is going fast gas for fast Banshee, even though you don't have a Robo, you often kill him right off the bat, and this is the signal that Grubby needs. Grubby now knows he's up against an early expander.
And this Marine did move around from the third. He found a probe, but he did not see that northern pylon. He is going to go ahead and eliminate the probe. Here are the units moving out now. Does he have enough? Quickly, Flash begins to retreat. He's got to watch out, and he will have 4 Marines trapped. They turn around immediately, try to do some damage, but those Marines must tuck tail and leave. There is 1 bunker up. Is he going to throw? Yes, the second one right behind it. And now, here we go. Grubby with a little push.
This is dangerous. Grubby needs to get that critical number of 5 stalkers. He can then push with his Zealot Sentry and target fire down SCVs. It looks like he's moving forward. There's a lot of SCVs here, and Grubby begins to target fire the SCVs. 1, 2 end up falling. There's a third, and it looks like Grubby has decided that's plenty. He's gotten what he needs. He gets a 4th that moves out. And this is an excellent, excellent position to be in as Grubby.
He also does not appear to be completely done with this quite yet. SCV is in a position to get picked off almost immediately, and Grubby would probably be content with doing this all day. He's not warping in additional units to reinforce this, and so he must be happy with where he is currently at. Meanwhile, he's got his gas ups at the natural, and they're throwing down a Forge and a Twilight Council.
And with no concussive shield down, Grubby is fairly certain that he can continue to do those little pokes without running the risk of having everything sniped off. Especially if you don't see a concussive shell in that first engagement, you know your opponent probably went for stim. So now we see Flash still getting quite a fast starport. It's a nice little order that Flash goes in. He gets his gas and his add-ons and his extra barracks started before he expands and builds those bunkers. Excuse me, before he moves his expansion and builds those bunkers.
Flash moves out to check the towers, immediately going to try to hunt down those pylons that were reinforcing Grubby. He finds the first one. Not sure if he's going to find that northern one, as he never actually had vision of it. Let me double check. There he does find it with a scouting Marine. Meanwhile, Stalker moving down, seeing if there's anything at the third for Grubby, but everything looks safe and sound. Charge is on the way, as well as +1 armor with the 2 additional gateways here for Grubby. But look at this, Flash moving out across the map. Grubby did his damage and then got himself into a defensive position. What do you think about what we're seeing out of Flash right here, Sean?
Nice aggressive play from Flash. He can do this reliably almost every game because he has the 2 reactor barracks, almost all Marines. The only thing that's really a huge threat is tons of sentries, but Grubby only has a modest number, so it's a defensive number, not enough to catch him off guard mid-map.
Going to take out those rocks. Now keep in mind, +1 weapons is underway, but combat shield's going to be finishing here shortly. On Grubby's side, focusing on those upgrades, but Templar Archives is coming out as well. It's going to be very key here for Grubby. And here we go, Flash going forward. Only 5 units trapped on the force field side. A few Zealots are going to go down. Will they target fire those sentries? No. Picked up by the medevac, moved out. No sentries do fall, but a couple of Zealots give up their life. But I feel like Flash is inching closer and
Flash
closer
is
to
getting
Grubby.
really comfortable. He has so many Marines. Where's the extra warp-in of Zealots? Grubby does have charge. +1 armor is done. More Zealots on the warp-in, but not quite enough to be able to do a nice force field. And it looks like Flash is just going to kite micro with the huge Marine number. Grubby's gateway-based army is melting so quickly.
If he would have had those 1 warp-in of Zealots there in that battle, I feel like it would have gone much, much differently, but still Grubby trying to hold on. 1 pylon going to go down. Flash safely trying to take out whatever he possibly can. Now the Twilight Council is under fire. Over half of its shields now gone, and Grubby just looking for an opportunity to poke forward here. Love the spread of Flash's units, but is this the end for Grubby in his first matchup of the Fall Championship?
Oh, looks like the Archon trying to step into the fray, and when that concussive shell's done, that's going to be the real terror time for Grubby. With all these Marines, it looks like Flash is just continuing to rally. Massive damage going down for that Archon. An excellent little pullback there from Grubby, but still nearly doubling the supply, 100 to 55. Flash is just terrorizing Grubby.
And more units starting to reinforce in. He's put down a third behind this, something that Grubby has yet to do because he's been dealing with this pressure. GG! Flash takes his first round of the tournament, defeating Grubby 2-0.
And you know, the real key comes down to the fact that almost always when you do an early expand, you have to build that early bunker. Some players say you must build bunker number 1, and then you can start building your following 2 barracks and your following 2 geysers. Some players